Self-limiting beliefs are false or restricted thoughts that hold people back from reaching their full potential. So some beliefs are learned from experience. Others are told to us, as Tom said, by our parents, our preachers, and our teachers.
So we grow up thinking, number one, whether you realize it or not, almost everyone thinks that they're not enough. And that gets rooted in just past criticism of yourself or other people criticizing something that you've done.
Yes, and that can hold you back from anything. If you don't believe in yourself, how can you change? How can you climb? How can you level up, as we like to say?
This podcast is for the rebels
The misfits, the dreamers.
who really are sick of living on autopilot.
Every week, we strip away the excuses, we break the rules, we give you bold, actionable strategies.
So you can crush your habits that hold you back,
Ditch the job you hate.
build a life that you actually want to wake up to.
No fluff,
No permission slips
just real talk, proven tools, and a healthy dose of rebellion.
to help you break free and rise higher and own your next chapter.
This isn't just a podcast, it's an escape plan.
If you are sick of just following status quo, you have just found your people. I am so excited about this episode. We are talking about limiting beliefs, which is something that stops everyone, right, Mel?
Correct. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks, Tom.
I'm so happy to have you, my partner in crime, talking about the stuff that we've been witnessing for 20 years. So to you, what is, when I say self-limiting beliefs, what does that make you think?
Well, I'm happy to be here and welcome to 3 Seconds of Guts again. We're here to talk about what holds us back. And when we need 3 seconds of guts, why? What's going on? What's going on between our ears? So Tom and I, we have this saying, which is we have head trash because we all have this stuff going on in our head. So as we were talking about self-limiting beliefs, we had maybe 2 or 3 things that we call on. Self-limiting beliefs, we tend to use the term head trash. And I also have the story I tell myself, or the story we tell each other about ourselves, right?
Yeah. And that's so spot on. I use head trash, and I could actually show you my trash can in my office that says head trash on it, because I have to remind myself to not kind of play in that story in my head, because I could do it so easily. And the thing that I have found over the years, examining myself, because that's how I can help other people, is by knowing myself, right? Know thyself. I learned my stuff from my parents, my preachers, and my teachers. And I feel that sometimes it's taught as you're a kid. Oh, Tommy, he's shy, and so I grew up thinking I'm shy. Sometimes it's by an experience that was you deemed negative, and it's like, oh yeah, so I'll stay away from that, hot stove, not doing that again. And so that is how it begins.
Yes. So much of our identities are wrapped into these stories that we've told ourselves or have been told about ourselves, but we don't know that, right? They're just kind of programmed in us. But then when we start to take action and the story and the action don't line up, that's where we get the resistance. And that's why people are afraid of change. That's a human behavior, is to stay in your comfort zone. So let's start out with, what is a self-limiting belief?
Right. So, I mean, what's the definition, right? So we actually looked it up.
So self-limiting beliefs are false or restricted thoughts that hold people back from reaching their full potential. They often form from past experiences, fear, societal expectations, or internalized criticisms. So some beliefs are learned from experience. Others are told to us, as Tom said, by our parents, our preachers, and our teachers.
So we grow up thinking, number one, whether you realize it or not, almost everyone thinks that they're not enough.
That's probably the number one.
That's probably number one. And that gets rooted in just past criticism of yourself or other people criticizing something that you've done, good or bad.
Yes, and that can hold you back from anything. If you don't believe in yourself, how can you change? How can you climb? How can you level up, as we like to say? So, if you believe you're not good enough, how do you change that?
So I have a hack. if if you're interested in this, so this is I forget where I learned this, but I changed my password to my computer. So every morning when I open up my computer, I have to put in "I am enough."
Okay, okay. Hold on one second, because that makes me think of something that Tom taught me and that I just read in the book Inner Excellence. So let's talk a little bit about reprogramming the mind. And you have a hack of using your phone, which I do now as well. So will you share that with us?
Yeah, it's really simple. The phone thing is great. You have an alarm. So you open up the alarm and it says the word alarm. You could exit out and put in anything that you want. Put in "I am enough." Put in every day I make myself better. You could put in every day I take 3 seconds of guts to do what I want to do or say something that I need to say.
So every day, these alarms, and we programmed them. Tom helped me on our plane flight, which is actually right after we decided to do this podcast together. He was like, I'm like, how do I do this on my phone? So put in maybe 5 different ones, different times of the day. And every day it comes up and it says something. My favorite one that I have is it shows up on my phone just around 4 o'clock every day. And it says, I love you. You're a total badass. And that is the one out of all of them. I felt so weird and awkward putting it in there. And probably for the first 2 months, every time I'd see it, I would kind of cringe, which is so crazy. And now I look forward to it and I've started to own that self-love, that self-talk of seeing that every day and confirming that and reaffirming that, because repetition is the mother of skill. So that's a great way of starting to change some of the self-limiting beliefs.
I mean, it's really examining yourself and trying to get down to figuring out why you do what you do. I remember when I was first dating my wife, she was obsessed with making sure that the gas was turned off on the stove in her house before she left. I don't know why. And I tried to like push her on it. Like, why do you need to do this? She's like, it's like a OCD thing. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not. It's something that you're telling yourself, and it's based in fear. It's almost always based in fear.
It could also be a mom thing. I think I do that probably.
Yeah, and of course you have to be safe. Yeah, definitely. But in order, like, if you're already down the street, like, do you turn? I mean, I guess you would turn the car around, go back home, and of course it's always off. But
I
it's a
just got my alarm.
perfect proof.
Yes, timing. Good
And
timing.
the funny thing is that we all, me and our friends at Fran Choice, and I'm sure all your other friends that you hang out with, and your husband, we all know that you're a badass, but
Yes.
you never believed it, right? That's the crazy part. It's
It's
like
the
you said what you said, and I'm like, but she's always been a badass. Like, she didn't believe that. Yeah, that's the way we live. It's nuts.
That's why we're good friends. Thank you, Tom. There's so much head trash that we have, and I think as you start to see some of it in real life and things that hold you back, or maybe you don't do something because you're afraid, and then you start thinking about it, right? When the regret starts to come in and you say, "Why didn't I do that?"
Well,
Um,
I was just gonna say one thing that you'll find, especially as you get old like me, is you never regret the things that you did do. You regret the things that you did not do.
yeah, I believe that.
And that's the crazy part. And it's why we so scared to do something. And it's the story that we tell ourselves.
Yes.
And the best way to get over it is just to do it. Get that 3 seconds of guts and jump out of a plane
Yeah.
or
3 seconds. And it doesn't take forever. It takes 3 seconds to change your life, to take a deep breath, to visualize your future, and to take the first step. And when you take the first step, all the other steps will start coming your way.
For people that are listening, I have a piece of homework. I don't like to use that word, but this is fun.
Yeah.
When you get a chance, after you listen to all our podcasts, go to YouTube and look up Will Smith skydiving.
Oh, that is a good
And
one.
that video says it all about fear. But the thing that I always remember about that video is Will, he's a great storyteller, but he says, when you're skydiving, it's always tandem. So you're strapped to somebody and they're like, all right, we're walking to the threshold of the plane. And he says, okay, we're going to jump on two, the person says. And so you're there and you're like, he goes, 1, 2, and they push you on 2. Why? Because everybody grabs on 3. And that always stuck with me. So when you think about 3 seconds of guts, yeah, because we are so engaged with, oh crap, I'm not doing it.
Yes.
And so sometimes you have to
Sometimes you
jump on,
need just a nudge. Just go. Go on two. I love
sometimes you
that.
have to jump on too.
Jump on two. So why don't we share a story where, maybe a self limiting belief or a story that we've told ourselves to when we realize, is that really serving me? Is that really helping me in my life? I mean, do you have any stories like that?
Yeah, like I have a million. How long is this podcast? I mean, I could really get into some crazy stuff. One thing that stands out in my mind that was a major thing in my life, and it was so silly thinking about it now. I'm almost embarrassed to talk about it, but just for the sake of education on this, when I was in 7th grade, I decided that I wanted to ask this girl out on a date, and everybody kind of knew that I was like, in love with this girl in 7th grade. And the day I asked her out, all her like somehow her girlfriends all knew, and everybody's standing there like on the side of the classroom. And I said, "Hey, would you like to go out with me?" And she said, "No." And I was like crushed.
Yeah.
And all her friends are giggling in the background.
That's a
And
good
from
one.
that moment, I decided no woman like me. I could never talk to a woman. And that was it. And I kind of shut down to the point where I met my wife in college. She had to ask me out. I would never ask her out because I had that head trash about that. So I turned that incident into a whole lifelong head trash story,
Right.
limiting making friends with people and stuff and asking out girls that I thought were attractive. I never did it. And then after going to therapy and like all this stuff, I all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, it was that girl. I'm not gonna mention names because you never know how wide our podcast goes. But that girl screwed me up. She didn't screw me up. I screwed myself up. I gave it um that permission to be in a shell. I gave myself permission to not talk to anybody.
You believe the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I made it my persona.
And that's the key right there, right? We own it. We make it a part of who we are. And then that stops the action of doing things that don't line up with that. So if you say I'm shy or I don't talk to women, and then you have to, the two don't align. And that's what holds us back and why we need to kind of think through these stories. I have a story that I just changed about a year ago, and I have always believed that I am somebody who only can learn by visual learning. I'm not an auditory learner. So when people would say, and I have, Tony Robbins CDs, and I bought DVDs and CDs, and I have all of this stuff. And and there is truth that that is not my dominant way of learning, but I had been really missing out of reading and learning, which is a part of me and who we are, and our world and franchising of helping people, because I can't listen to audiobooks. Now, as a busy mom, to sit down and read a book is not going to happen, right? Like the kids have some kind of radar that as soon as you pick up a book, they like come out of nowhere. So I wasn't fueling that educational part of my life, but I just kept saying, I'm not an auditory learner. So I finally said, is that true? Or is that a story you're telling yourself, Melissa? And I read a great book. I read the book. I made myself sit down and read Atomic Habits, which was life changing by James Clear. And I learned little ways that I would just start listening to audiobooks. Maybe I'm just brushing my teeth, right? Habit stacking, as he would say, or maybe when I'm doing my stretching routine in the day before I work out. And would you believe it that I have read 12 or 13 books already this year because I finally challenged myself to say, is that true? Or is that just a story we're telling ourselves? We're telling yourself, Melissa.
That's so amazing, and so in a bigger kind of macrocosm story for myself, I grew up being told, "Don't go to college." My parents were one of the only parents who said, "Don't go to college. Get a job with a pension," because dot dot dot. We're blue collar people. We don't, you know, in the subcontext of that, we're not smart enough. As Spartas, we don't go to college. Or that's how I heard it. And so I got a job as a subway conductor. And I realized as I did that for 13 years that this is not me.
Yeah.
I have like this entrepreneurial itch, but I didn't know like where to start. And when I decided I'm going to buy a franchise, I don't know anyone who was supportive. My wife was, but my parents called me. I mean, my father said I was an idiot. I mean, for leaving a pension, a city job. To this day, my mom still asks. My mom's 84. She still asks me, "When am I going to get a real job?" And so, and she saw the podcast on Facebook, and she's like, "What's that thingy you're doing on the computer with that girl Melissa? What is that?" And I'm like, "This is what I do. This is my job." It's like, why don't you just get a real job and you could, go to an office and you could meet people and go to lunch with them. And I'm like,
Right. Go
so,
in a
so this is
box.
like in my head, right? And there's a great book called The War of Art, which is by Stephen Pressfield. And he talks about this is resistance. Resistance could be very mundane, like your parents telling you something like that, or your spouse saying, "You're not buying a franchise.
Yeah.
Keep your job. Are you kidding me? That's too dangerous." And that's just their fear talking. It's my mom's fear that I'm not going to make money and I'm going to be living in a, refrigerator box under the freeway, living in a van down by the river.
Right. People try to keep us, keep them, their loved ones comfortable. And a lot of times, and we see this in the franchise world all the time, that people will have resistance from the ones closest to them because they do see them in that box. And if you try to get out of it, they don't want that to happen. There's a
Right.
great story, the crabs in the bucket story.
Yes.
So there's if you ever go to a fishing village or down to a pier or whatnot, and you'll see somebody fishing, the fisherman will have a bucket with no top on it with crabs in it. And if you wonder, like, well, why have they not climbed out? Is because if one crab tries to climb out of the bucket, the other crabs grab him and bring him back. And the same is in today's world of if somebody's starting to go higher or really push out of the story of who they are, a lot of times their friends or colleagues or family, whoever it is who love them, want them to stay in that box and in that comfort zone and they pull them back down.
It's so amazing. And that makes me think of one of my favorite stories of all time that I heard from Deepak Chopra. I don't know if I ever shared with you, Melissa, the Who's Living in Yorktown story.
Oh, I don't know.
So it's sort of related, a little bit different than crabs in a bucket, but I'll do the abbreviated version because it's kind of a long story. But hypothetically, there's a guy who wants to move to this town, and before he moves there, he goes to the town to figure out what kind of people live there. So he meets, like, I don't know, the mayor or the town council, whoever it was, and he goes to the council person and says, "Before I move here, I want to know what kind of people live here." And the person said, "Well, what kind of people live where you live?" And he said, "Well, that's the reason I'm moving. They all stink, They don't help you. They don't want to help you with your children. Nobody will lend you a loaf of bread. It's just a terrible place." And the guy said, "Wow, the same kind of people live here." So the guy picked up his bags and he moved along. The next day, another person came to town looking to move in and went to the head of the town and said, "Hey, I want to move in this town, but before I do, I want to know what kind of people live here." And the guy said, "Well, what kind of people live where you're from now?" He said, "Oh my God, they're the best people. They'll take their shirt off their back and give it to you. They are the best. They'll give you anything that you need." And he said, "That's great. The same kind of people live here.
Yes.
So what kind of people are living in your town?"
That's your
That's
self-fulfilling prophecy right there.
that's it.
Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
That's right. That's right.
Yes,
Henry Ford, that unbelievable stuff.
yes. Well, I think the key here is that think of the stories you tell yourself. And if you're trying to grow outside of whatever this box is in this story that you're telling yourself, start to ask yourself, does that story serve me in my life and where I want to get to? And if it doesn't, on our next episode, we're going to talk about what you can do to change that. How can you change some of these self limiting
You know,
beliefs?
and one piece that I'll say now is you just have to reframe the story. And whether, try something, go a little bit out of your comfort zone. Does it work? Great. If it didn't work, what did I learn? Right. I think it was John Maxwell who said, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Yes. That's great. Well, thank you guys for being here. I couldn't be more excited and grateful to have this opportunity to share some of the things that we've learned in our friendship and our knowledge.
This is great. I am so blessed. I feel so grateful for you, Melissa, and for the crew and Emily that's behind the scenes helping us with this. I am just so grateful. And to our franchise friends, thank you all. And we'll see you on the next episode.